This program provides education, not advice. See the truthayf.com disclosure page for details.
This is where technology, innovation, and personal finance come together.
This is the truth about your future with Rick Edelman. Brought to you by Global X ETFs, dedicated to providing investors with unexplored intelligent solutions, and by Invesco QQQ. Anyone can become an agent of innovation with Invesco QQQ. Invesco Distributors, Inc.
It's Monday, April 24th. A couple of weeks ago, I said that the biggest scam in investing today is ESG, environmental, social, governance. Mutual funds and ETFs that invest with a filter so that they only invest in companies that pay attention to ESG values. I said that a lot of people have invested in ESG, and so that's pretty cool, right? You can align your investments with your values. But I also said that it's nothing but a sales pitch. Of the 1,120 funds that currently have a AAA rating for adhering to ESG, the company that awards those ratings is about to announce that they've been wrong. And of those 1,120 funds that they currently gave a AAA rating to, only 54 of them actually deserve to have that AAA rating. And so if you've bought any of the other 1,066 ESG funds, you've been bamboozled. Not only that, I said, but if you look at the past 1, 3, 5, and 10-year time periods, ESG funds have underperformed the overall market, as measured by the S&P 500. So I asked, are you really willing to earn less just so you can feel good? Well, one listener said to me, hey, Rick, what's the big deal? So what if my ESG fund underperforms a little? He said he looked at his ESG fund and he found out that I was right. He earned less than the S&P 500. He said over the past several years, his ESG fund has earned 2% less than the S&P 500. And he said, Rick, I'm willing to live with that. Well, I hope you change your mind. And here's the message of today. It's not really about ESG. It's not really about investment scams and frauds. What it's really about is your need to understand the power of compounding. This failure to understand is one of the biggest reasons for investors failing to achieve financial success. This guy said to me, hey, you know what? I'm earning 2% less by investing focused on my values. And he thinks that earning 2% less a year isn't a big deal. Well, let me just demonstrate for you how big a deal it is. We're going to compare two different investments. Hypothetical here, I'm just giving you an example. One of them earns 10% a year. That's the average annual return of the stock market since 1926. So, 10% a year versus 8%. So, that's what this guy is telling us, that his ESG fund has earned only 2% less. So here's the first point. 2% less? No, it's 2 percentage points less. Earning 8 instead of 10? That's a 20% reduction, not 2%. It's really important that we understand the difference between a percent and a percentage point. I mean, think about it. Let's talk about the difference between 1% and 2%. What's the difference? 50%, right? What's the difference? Well, in order to go from 1% to 2%, you'd have to double. That's a 100% increase. Or if you have the 2% and you're cutting it down to 1, that's a 50% reduction. It's only 1 percentage point, but it's either 50% reduction or 100% gain. You've got to make sure you understand the difference between percentages and percentage points. Now, with that in mind, look at what happens. If you earn 10% over 40 years, as opposed to 8% over 40 years. This guy thinks, oh, it's only 2% a year difference. What's the big deal? Well, let me tell you what a big deal it is. I'm just going to use a simple $1,000 investment. You invest $1,000 today, you do it, and you hold that investment for 40 years. So you start at age 30, and you hold on to it until age 70. At 10% a year, $1,000 will grow to $45,000. But at 8%, it grows to less than $22,000. In other words, that little extra difference, 10% instead of 8%, more than doubles the end result. consider that you're not investing a single lump sum today, because most of us don't. Most of us invest slowly over time. As we get more and more paychecks, we invest more and more of our money. Think about your 401k at work, right? You get a paycheck, some of the money goes into your retirement account. Let's invest $100 a month over a 40-year period. If you earn 10% a year on all of that money, over 40 years, $100 a month, you'll end up with $632,000. But if you only earn 8%, you won't have $632,000. You'll only have $349,000. Again, a little bit more than half the difference between 8% and 10%. This is why it is so vital that you understand the importance of earning higher rates of return. When people tell me that they're satisfied with their money in their bank account, earning 3 or 4% a year, when they could be investing in the stock market at 8 or 10% a year, you see the incredible difference in end result? Don't be dismissive of the extra couple of points that you might be able to earn in alternative investments from what you're doing right now. If you truly want to achieve your financial goals, you've got to earn the rates of return that are provided by the financial marketplace. And don't just be a shrugger saying, what's the difference? It's only a couple of points. And don't take this cavalier attitude of, this is good enough. It really isn't. The difference between 8 and 10 is doubling how much money you have in retirement. Imagine the difference between 4% and 10%. Make sure you're focusing on the rate of return. Make sure you're not denying yourself and your family future financial security. Hey, tomorrow at 2 p.m. Eastern, I've got a 1-hour webinar and you're invited. It's free. I'm going to be doing it with Bitwise CIO Matt Hogan, how crypto is really going to change the world. Real-world use cases. It's a virtual event online. It's aimed at financial advisors who receive 1 CE credit. You can attend as well. Register right now at dacfp.com. The link is in the show notes. And hope to see you there tomorrow at 2 p.m. And whether I see you there or here, I'll see you tomorrow.
Support for Rick Edelman's podcast comes from Invesco QQQ. Meet Carmen, an everyday person who likes working in the garden, hosting dinner parties with friends, and listening to live music. She also participates in Progress by investing in a fund that supports innovative ideas. Invesco QQQ ETF allows you access to innovators of the NASDAQ 100, so you don't have to be an engineer to help push progress forward. Anyone can become an agent of innovation. Learn more at Invesco.com/QQQ. There are risks when investing in ETFs, including possible loss of money. ETFs risks are similar to those of stocks. Investments in the tech sector are subject to greater risk and more volatility than more diversified investments. The NASDAQ 100 Index comprises the 100 largest non-financial companies on the NASDAQ. You can't invest directly into an index. Before investing, carefully read and consider fund investment objectives, risks, charges, expenses, and more in prospectus at Invesco.com. Invesco Distributors, Inc.
The Truth About Your Future is sponsored by Global X ETFs. Listeners of this program enjoy fresh perspectives on the financial topics that matter most, especially the rise of exponential technologies. And right now, there may be no faster-moving tech story than the rise of artificial intelligence. But despite some exciting new developments, like the launch of ChatGPT, we are only beginning to scratch the surface of AI's potential. So, which companies will have staying power? As an investor, it's hard to know, which is why Global X ETFs specializes in thematic investing strategies that harness the potential of numerous companies involved in an emerging trend, all in a single trade. Explore our investment approach along with our latest research on the emergence of AI at globalxetfs.com/insights.
Cutting-edge investment information delivered in plain English.
This is The Truth About Your Future with Rick Edelman.